If you woke up a Michigan fan, you woke up a national champion. Hail to the victors on repeat in Houston, Texas. Final score from NRG Stadium was 34-13. Now that final score, a little bit deceptive because Michigan, they put the throttle down. They found a way to pull away. But when you look at what this game was for Michigan, I thought it was a dogfight for the majority of that four-quarter stretch. And when you look at the style of play Michigan had last night, wasn't perfect. Wasn't the most efficient at times. You had some drops. You had the run game start out really hot and then kind of sputter. I mean, the secondary kind of traded blows back and forth at times with that Washington Monstar wide receiver group like you knew they would. But the feeling I had when I left NRG Stadium last night at 2 a.m, Michigan played championship-style, championship-level football. And that can be distilled down to when it was time to win, they did what was required. And that sounds cliche because, quite honestly, it is a little bit cliche. But when I look at the style of game, like overall, Michigan stuck to their identity. And I know there's some thought around, well, in that Penn State game, they doubled down and only ran the football because that was all they could do. And I hear that. But like, let's make sure we're all on the same page here. Michigan has been a run the football team all season long. That's who they are. That's their bread and butter. And when it came to crunch time, they doubled down on that. I mean, they ran for 300 yards as a team. Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards, respectively, both had 100 yards rushing. They had 8 yards a carry as a team. Like when it was time to win, they went to their fastball, and that fastball delivered in ultimate fashion. The other part of that, they were timely. Champions, when it's that fourth quarter, when it's that last round, you need that knockout, that's where they show up in the big stage. And that's what Michigan did. Pass game, it wasn't lights out last night, but it was, again, timely. J.J. McCarthy, those linebackers, they want to trigger and they want to try and stop the run because they're tired of having 8 yards of carry ran on them. Colston Loveland over the seam, past the linebacker, J.J. McCarthy, throws a dart. That ultimately kind of was the dagger of a drive where Blake Corum capped it off and got in the end zone. The edges in this game for Michigan, like we said in our preview, stayed the edges. Like this wasn't a situation where if you're Michigan, you could find yourself down by 10 points or 14 points and climb back into it. And it was never that case. Michigan controlled the entirety of the game by nature of how they ran the football and by nature of how that secondary freaking battled, man. And they were able to battle with the resources that they needed to have because that front four for Michigan, they got after Michael Penix Jr. Like there was a play there where Kenneth Grant sacks Michael Penix Jr. within his own 10-yard line. And my first thought was, well, were they tricky there? So immediately watching the press box, they had the TV broadcast going on above us. So I leaned my chair back and looked at the play. There was nothing tricky. There was no stunts. There was no pressure from that second level. It was just Kenneth Grant saying, I'm a grown man as a college student, and bull rushes the offensive line of Washington. That was the Joe Moore Award-winning offensive line of Washington. Gets to Michael Penix Jr. Like the fact they were able to create pressure with 4 players with just their defensive line and allow that secondary to play honest on the back end and just battle, that was the key to success. That was the key to victory last night defensively for Michigan. Mikey Sanders still, the way he made tackles in the open field, clutch. Will Johnson getting the interception to start the second half, clutch. Timely, battled back and forth. And it wasn't without error. Like I just said, championship-level football is not perfect football. It wasn't without mistakes. Rome Odunze still kind of got his to a degree. I think he had north of 80 yards receiving, one of which being a 44-yard reception. Michigan was lucky to dodge a bullet at one point in time where Michael Penix Jr. just quite frankly missed a few throws. One that was a big one to Rome Odunze on 4th and 7 that would have made things a little bit more interesting. But they were able to fight multiple styles. Like we just said, when Washington sells out to stop the run, what does Michigan do? A little counterpunch. Colston Loveland. They got that crosser around to Roman Wilson where J.J. McCarthy just, absolutely drilled it in there and allowed him to catch and run. Like there was never any situation where Michigan was, one, ill-equipped to play the kind of game against Washington, and two, we said it all week long, like they were as prepared, I think, from an emotional and from a competitive standpoint as you could possibly be. And I don't just mean from the scheme, because that was definitely in place too. When you look at the way that Michigan hadn't played well in some of their previous playoff spots, the Georgia game, Georgia was Georgia that year, and just kind of had that season in the bag, if we're going to be real. Like, that was a generational defense. Look at the TCU game. I felt like Michigan got outside of themselves. I felt like Michigan kind of got a little bit too finesse when, if you're a Michigan fan, you would have liked to see them be a little bit more pound the rock. I never saw them get outside of themselves. And we talked to JJ McCarthy at Media Day, and he told us, man, like, experience is the greatest edge you can have as a competitor. And that showed itself in this game. Pre-game, man, we were down there on the field. They were loose. They were loose. They were confident. They had the headphones on. You saw dudes dancing, saw dudes having a good time. Like, you would have never known if you had just been dropped into that situation. That was a national title kind of game for Michigan by nature of how loose they were in the pregame. And it wasn't, obviously, by nature of the results, a lack of focus loose or ignorant to the stakes kind of loose. It was we trust our preparation. We've been here before. We're not guessing about anything we've done to this point in the season. Like, we feel good about our chances here. We feel good about our preparation going forward. So overall for Michigan, like I said, if you woke up in Ann Arbor, Michigan today, you were a national champion, and you should feel like there is zero asterisk next to what you've done. And I feel like we got to say this every single time with Michigan, because I just understand we're going to get folks that have something to say about Connor Stallions, about Cheeseburger Gate, about, oh, well, that win will be vacated at some point in time. Like, one, I'd be wildly surprised if it was. Two, we all saw what happened on the field. We all saw what happened when you went 11 on 11, grown man on grown man in between that 53.3, 100-yard field. Like, that was what you got. Like, the eye in the sky don't lie. And so let's just say absolute worst case scenario somehow becomes reality somewhere down the line. Again, I'd be surprised if that were the case. But let's just say that somehow, some way down the line, there's a conversation to legitimacy of this season for Michigan, and the NCAA does what the NCAA does and all that. But, like, at the end of the day, what happened on that field will live forever. What our eyeballs saw, that domination last night from Michigan in that fourth quarter, that will live forever. The way they beat Ohio State, then beat Alabama, that will live forever. So as far as I'm concerned, keep your asterisk. Michigan's national champions. Hail to the victors again, I'm sure, just on repeat today. For a lot of the good folks across the country repping the maize and blue. And for us, man, I would say crank that up. Turn that thing all the way up. It was a good night for us on Prize Picks. Okay, like, we had been cold the entirety of November. Rolling into December, we're kind of limping, and we issued a statement and just said, hey, listen, if you want to trust the trend, I would say fade us. But if you want to hunker down, get in this foxhole with us and lock arms, let's ride. Burn the boats, baby. And that was exactly what we did. So to kind of give you a quick recap here, one, redeem code JD for 100% deposit match up to $100 via Prize Picks. A lot of fun. If you didn't have a dog in the fight last night, you just kind of rode with some different squares that we had out there, probably enhanced the viewing experience just a little bit. But to recap it for you here, when it came to our play last night, we had a flex play. And a flex play essentially means you don't need every single square to hit to get some return on investment there. And we had Roma Dunze for half receiving touchdown. That did not hit. Jack Westover, his number was more than 2.5 receptions. That was his number. We took the more there. He had 5, so that clearly hit. Cornelius Johnson, this is interesting here. His number was 3 receptions. We took the less. He had 3 receptions. So what Prize Picks does, they say, okay, we're just going to throw that square out of there then. They just act as if that square did not exist. Donovan Edwards, we took him for less than 16.5 receiving yards. He had none, so that hit. Blake Corum, 111 receiving and rushing yards, 111.5 rather. That felt like theft. We felt great about that one all the way through. That did, in fact, hit. Then Jalen McMillan, he had a number for 5 receptions on the night. We took the less there foolishly. He had 6. They fed him early and often. We felt bad about that one from the jump. But as a whole, if you rode with us here, again, the beautiful part about Prize Picks is you don't need to hit every single square. So if you put down $100, you made $40. So to be clear, you did not lose that $100. I had some people DMing me and saying, well, hey, I put down this much money and I got less than what I put down. I lost that money, right? No. You made the money that Prize Picks is showing you. You won that amount and you keep your entry. So all that's to say, big shouts to Prize Picks all season long, been supporting the show and allowing us to do awesome stuff like where we are right now and be in Houston, Texas for the national title game. So appreciate y'all that have redeemed code JD. Again, 100% deposit match up to $100. Lock in. We appreciate y'all that have rode with us all year long. And even if you faded us all year long, we appreciate you too. And you probably made yourself some good money throughout the course of college football season. So roll party, roll there.
Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.